Hello and welcome to EGMAT. We will solve question number 36 of OG Verbal Second Edition by using EGMAT three-step process. In the first step, we will understand the meaning of the sentence. In the second, we will evaluate the errors in the sentence, and finally, we will review all the answer choices to get to the correct answer. So let's begin. Polio, although it is eradicated in the United States, it continues elsewhere and is able to be brought into the country by visitors. Now, this sentence presents a contrast, and although is the marker of that contrast. The sentence says that polio has been eradicated from the US, but it exists in other parts of the world and hence can be brought to the US by visitors. Now let us evaluate the errors by splitting the sentence into its clauses. So here comes the first one, polio. After polio we have although, which is followed by a subject-verb pair, which means we have a clause here and it reads, although it is eradicated in the United States. Here it is the subject and is eradicated is the verb. What follows next is the continuation of the first clause and it reads, it continues elsewhere and is able to be brought into the country by visitors. Now, the independent clause should logically have the subject-verb pair with polio being the subject and it continues and is able being the verbs. But it is placed in such a way that it now becomes the subject of these verbs, leaving polio without any verb. Thus, it needs to be removed to correct this fragment error. So we certainly have the subject-verb error in this sentence. Also, this expression is able to be brought is overly wordy. Typically, we use able to denote capability. Now, in the context of this sentence, it's illogical to say that polio has the capability to be brought back. We can simplify this to state that polio can be brought to the US by visitors. So we have little expression error here in this sentence. So these are the errors here, and let's see what's the correct answer. Well, choice A is certainly not the correct answer as we discussed just now. Choice B again repeats the same fragment error as in choice A, and that makes choice B incorrect. Choice C is not correct, firstly because this sentence presents general facts about polio. So whatever should be said about polio must be written in the simple present tense. But the use of is continuing in the sentence to present general fact is not correct. So that's one mistake here. Also, choice C distorts the intended meaning of the sentence. Now, the contrast in original sentence is that polio is not there in US, but because it's present elsewhere, it can be brought to US. Now, the contrast per this choice is that polio is present elsewhere, but it is not present in US and can be brought back in US. Now, this sequencing is not proper and that makes choice C incorrect. Let's take a look at choice D. Now, choice D is grammatically correct, but again, it distorts the meaning of the sentence. Now, this choice implies a causal relationship between eradication of polio in US and prevalence of polio elsewhere. Now, this is not the intended meaning. Per the intended meaning, the absence of polio in US and its presence elsewhere are independent events. Let's take for an example. Having visited Australia this year, Sam has now visited at least one country in each continent. Now here we are talking about two ideas which are related to each other. Sam visited Australia this year and that has made him visit at least one country in each continent. So his visit to Australia led him to visit now at least one country in each continent. So here we have a clear causal relationship between the two ideas. But suppose if we say, even though Sam has visited Australia many times, he has not been to Sydney as many times. In this sentence, the contrast is absolutely clear and we have two independent ideas. Sam goes to Australia many times, but he does not visit Sydney every time he goes to Australia. So visiting Sydney has got nothing to do with his visiting Australia. So here we are talking about two independent ideas. But if we try and say this thing by saying, Although having visited Australia many times, Sam has not been to Sydney as many times. Here we are trying to relate two independent ideas, and this distorts the meaning of the this basically distorts the intended idea behind the sentence, and this exactly what D is doing in this sentence. So that makes choice D incorrect. Well, now we are left only with choice E, and choice E is the correct answer because now polio has replaced it, and it's become the subject of the sentence, and it has the two verbs continues and could be, and that wordy expression is able to be brought back, has been simplified to could be. So E is the correct answer for this sentence. Time to take a look at the takeaway messages now. We must always make sure that all the subject-verb pairs in the sentence are accounted for. We must avoid wordy constructions because they do not communicate the meaning of the sentence very effectively. And all the events in the sentence must be written in a way to bring out the intended meaning of the sentence. We must be wary of choices that distort the intended meaning. Now, the concepts tested in this sentence have been covered in EG Math Concepts Level 1 Significance of Meaning, Level 1 Subject Verb Must Exist, and Level 1 Verb Sequencing.